Hunting Trophies, Import Prohibition Bill, second reading.
Henry Smith.
Yeah. Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that this bill now be read a second time. Madam Deputy Speaker, this bill aims to ban the importation of endangered species body parts into Great Britain. To be more precise, those listed on the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES, in Annexes A and B, whether from species in the Northern Hemisphere, such as polar bears, or species in the Southern Hemisphere, such as elephants. Madam Deputy Speaker, the territorial extent of this bill is Great Britain. So to be clear, this legislation obviously does not tell other countries what to do. 7 years ago, Cecil the lion was infamously shot dead by an American trophy hunter in Zimbabwe. But sadly, British trophy hunters are amongst the world's most active killers of endangered species. In recent years, British trophy hunters have imported thousands of body parts as macabre souvenirs into the UK. According to CITES, the most popular trophies brought back from Africa into the UK are those of elephants, hippos, leopards, zebras, and lions. The African forest elephant has recently been declared critically endangered by the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. The African savanna elephant is also declared endangered, and their combined population is estimated to be approximately 400,000. At the beginning of the 19th century, there were as many as 20 million elephants in Africa. Madam Deputy Speaker, trophy hunters now shoot so many elephants that when you add up the number of those poached, more elephants are killed each year than are born. Moreover, trophy hunters are shooting the biggest elephants with the biggest tusks. This is leading to artificial selection. Only smaller tusked elephants are surviving and passing on their genes. There are now many more small tusks or tuskless adult elephants that will find it harder to find water under dry riverbeds in times of drought, which are occurring more frequently. Madam Deputy Speaker, the hippopotamus, second on the British trophy hunters list, is classed by the IUCN as vulnerable to extinction, as are zebras and leopards. Leopards are believed to have suffered a dramatic decline from the 1960s, from some 700,000 to only 50,000 animals today, according to estimates. The situation with lions is even more alarming. The population in 1970 was estimated to be 200,000. Researchers now tell us there could be as few as 10 to 15,000, perhaps at best 20,000 in the wild, with official warnings that lions may become extinct in the wild by 2050.
I'm afraid you're right.
Be delighted to.
This is such an important subject, and he's right to highlight right at the start of his speech. This is about us in this country banning imports rather than telling other countries what they should do. But is he aware that because the shortage of lions in the wild is so short now, captive lions are being bred, released into enclosures for the trophy hunters to shoot them?
My right honourable friend raises a very important and alarming point. That so-called canned shooting of lions and other majestic animals bred solely just to be shot by trophy hunters in an enclosure is a particularly sickening aspect and something that I think this country should have no part in whatsoever.
Can he give out on that point?
I'll be delighted to.
And I'm most grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. Can he explain to the House why the government is issuing import licences then for those CITES listed creatures?
Well, I think that I'm grateful for my right honourable friend for his intervention. I think that that illustrates the need for this piece of legislation to make it very clear that in this country, as sovereign nation, we should choose not to accept the importation of body parts from endangered species, and that this legislation will send a very clear message. The impact, Madam Deputy Speaker, of trophy hunting on lions has been well documented. The scientist who led the IUCN's Red List study on lions states that trophy hunting is linked to declining numbers of lions throughout its range. An Oxford University team looking at the impact of trophy hunting says their research found trophy hunting had the single most significant effect on lion populations. Madam Deputy Speaker, as with elephants, the problem of trophy hunting is twofold. On the one hand, as a US congressional report put it, trophy hunting removes a significant number of animals from a rapidly declining population. On the other hand, it is the fact that the best genes are no longer being passed on to future generations at a time when wildlife is facing new challenges. This makes the risk of extinction much greater. Trophy animals tend to be the most evolutionary fit and possess the high-quality genes a population of animals needs to adapt quickly to a changing environment. Trophy hunting can potentially push otherwise resilient populations to extinction when the environment changes. Scientists say lions have now suffered a loss of 15% in their gene pool over the last century. The killing of just 5% of remaining pride male lions could be enough to push the whole species past the point of no return. I'd be delighted to.
The honourable member for giving way and making an incredibly powerful speech, and this piece of legislation is so important, as we've heard already, making a powerful case about the big five. But does the member agree that perhaps this is now time to move this beyond the big five, and we need assurances from the Minister that all endangered species will be protected under this legislation as well?
Well, I'm grateful for the Honourable Lady's support of this bill and for her intervention. This legislation, when passed, would make it impossible for people to import trophy hunting body parts into Great Britain from all of those listed on the CITES Annexes A and B, which is almost 7,000 different kinds of species, with an ability under secondary legislation for the Secretary of State to add species as and when they potentially become endangered. And that's a very important point to highlight, and I'm grateful for her for doing that. In contrast, Madam Deputy Speaker, we know that stopping trophy hunting can lead to significant recoveries of wildlife. When trophy hunting of lions was temporarily banned in Zambia and Zimbabwe, their numbers almost doubled in the space of a few years. Botswana banned the trophy hunting of elephants many years ago. Botswana now has 1/3 of all Africa's elephants and more than twice as many as any other African nation. Kenya, which banned trophy hunting in the 1970s, is today an African conservation success story. In contrast to what is happening in other parts of Africa, Kenya's lion population has risen by a quarter in recent years, whilst black rhino numbers have fallen by 35% in the rest of Africa. In Kenya, they've gone up by a fifth. Numbers of white rhinos are falling throughout Africa, except in Kenya, where they have grown by 64% since 2017. Elephant numbers have doubled in Kenya, and the country now has virtually all of Africa's last remaining big tusker elephants. It is not just in Africa, though, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the impacts of trophy hunting has been seen and recorded. According to a US Congressional Research Service, trophy hunting has been responsible for population declines in the cougar in North America, and hunters caused the extinction of the wild Arabian oryx as recently as 1972.
Well, my honourable friend,
You'd be delighted to.
I thank him for giving way. My constituents in Wolverhampton North East, I've had so many contact me about this important bill. I want to thank him for the work he's doing. When we hear of an animal becoming extinct, I think it raises just so much sadness in so many people. Will he also pay tribute with me to people like Lorraine and Chris Platt with the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation, who've done so much to support him, I know, and many of us on animal welfare issues?
Well, I'm grateful to my honourable friend for her support and her intervention. I should declare an interest as a patron of the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation, but I certainly do pay tribute to Chris and Lorraine Platt for all of the remarkable work that they have done over many years to highlight the cause of animal welfare. And I am personally grateful. I know that many honourable and right honourable members on these benches are grateful for the support that they have provided. Madam Deputy Speaker, trophy hunting is also believed to be responsible for the extinction of the wild scimitar horned oryx just a few decades ago, and the near extinction of the Dorcas gazelle, the Nubian bustard, the Dharma gazelle, and the addax. Trophy hunting is more than just a contributor to a conservation crisis, though. Trophy hunting is cruel and immoral, I would argue. Numerous studies indicate that over half of the animals shot by trophy hunters do not die instant deaths, but instead have very slow and painful deaths. Moreover, the killing of living sentient creatures solely for sport, selfies, or souvenirs surely does not belong in the modern era. That is certainly the view of the overwhelming majority of the British public, 86% of whom say they want a ban on trophy hunting as soon as possible, with just 2% of people saying they wish the practice to continue. Madam Deputy Speaker, a ban on trophy imports is a measure that I am pleased to say enjoys widespread support across this House and across our society as a whole. And it was a general election manifesto pledge that I was proud to stand on just 3 years ago to ban the importation of hunting trophies. Be delighted to.
I thank the member Gingway. He's making a very powerful speech, and as he says, there's cross-party support, and certainly in my constituency, widespread support for this measure. The other day, I had a very concerning email from an APBG saying the World Wildlife Fund was actually against this measure because it thought trophy hunting actually encouraged economic activity in areas where it took place, and therefore we were going against that. Would you like to comment on that and probably try and rebut what was said to us in that email?
Well, I'm grateful to the right honourable gentleman for his intervention and again his support. Let's be clear that the WWF in the UK, Europe and the US are very much against trophy hunting and the importation of body parts from trophy hunters. There are some organisations who masquerade in some parts of southern Africa as conservation charities, but on even a cursory look at who funds them, it is often the gun lobby, particularly the American gun lobby, who funds them, and I think we need to have no naivety whatsoever as to the forces behind those who are seeking to maintain trophy hunting going forward. Madam Deputy Speaker, no fewer than 44,000 organisations, experts and individuals, including representatives of African communities, took part in the government's public consultation on these proposals, one of the most comprehensive such consultations ever concluded. Of these, 86% agreed that measures to end the imports of trophies should be introduced. Further to the right honourable gentleman's point, in Africa, for example, trophy hunting is an alien and unpopular concept, not indigenous, but rather introduced by European settlers. It now damages the reputation and the world's natural heritage of proud southern African nations. A 2019 study of attitudes towards trophy hunting amongst local communities in Africa found that the dominant pattern was resentment towards what was viewed as a neo-colonial character of trophy hunting in the way it privileges Western elites in accessing Africa's wild resources. Most recently, in August this year, an Ipsos poll found that only 16% of people in South Africa supported trophy hunting and that 74% wanted the government to focus on nature tourism and photo safaris instead.
Would you give way on that?
Of course.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Honourable Gentleman is making an excellent speech and I wholeheartedly support this bill. I've had a number of pieces of correspondence from constituents supporting this work and I'm grateful for him taking it forward. Does he agree with me that what he's saying about Southern Africa is particularly important given the state visit this week from the President of South Africa and the very strong and supportive links between our two countries?
I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman for his intervention and his support. Yes, it was good to see the President of South Africa on a state visit to the United Kingdom earlier this week, and clearly the majority of public opinion in his country is one that wants to see Africa, Southern Africa, celebrate its natural heritage, protect and grow its natural heritage, and benefit from photo safari tourism, which provides so much more economic opportunity for the people of Southern Africa. Madam Deputy Speaker, indeed, studies show that photo safaris generate more jobs for African people in rural communities and generate significantly greater revenues for conservation. And to repeat, Madam Deputy Speaker, this bill is not about what happens in Africa, however. This bill is about UK import policy. It's about what we, as a sovereign nation, choose to allow through our borders. And it's a bill about Britain making a concrete contribution to tackling the global conservation crisis. A British ban on imports of hunting trophies would help save thousands of animals that are threatened with extinction. It would make a strong statement to the international community that we must act decisively to conserve our living planet. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, to conclude, in the words of Ian Khama, the former President of Botswana, who, during his term of office, ended trophy hunting in his country, and I quote, "With the decline of wildlife worldwide and many species approaching extinction, all caused by man, how can there be justification for trophy hunting?" Madam Deputy Speaker, now almost a quarter of a century into the 21st century, I could not agree more. And today we can and must act. Thank you.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time.